starting the day after Christmas. A lot of people consider it a black holiday, but it's actually a very different kind of holiday, and it's about the fruits. And it was started in this country in 1966. And each day has a different name, and there's a different principle attached to it, and there's a different symbol that's attached to each one of them. And today, Jim, is about collective work.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandy.
There was a Kwanzaa celebration on this past Monday at Bishop Elite on Elm Street, and it was quite a nice gathering. And it was celebrated with the generations and very diverse group, and they went through the explanation of the history, and then there were children there that also helped with the lighting of the candles, as well as some of the other representatives from the community. And each person or individual spoke on a different day for a different principle. And there was a lot of good food, there was some drumming and dancing, and it's an annual celebration that's been going on in the community for a long time. So the nice thing about Kwanzaa, it makes people stop and think about what it means. And I think one of the things that I'm happy to have you here representing the emerging leaders from communities of color. I'll stick that up there. It's a fairly young organization. We're less than 10 years old. We've graduated a number of students who are now alumni. But there are individuals in the communities of color who are developing leadership skills, and I'll have you talk a little bit more about it. And we're happy to have you here because you, Perry, are a former alumnus and are the chairperson. And Yolanda, you're a new student, so
Yes.
I'd like to hear your perspective. So Perry, tell us a little bit about ELCC.
Okay, Emerging Leaders in Communities of Color. It was a group founded around 2004 or so.
Correct.
Right? And each year we've graduated somewhere between 5 or maybe 3, all the way up to about 12.
There's a total of 52 graduates
Yeah,
today.
so about 3 to 12 graduates a year.
Mm-hmm.
Most participants, I would say 99%, are 18 or over,
Mm-hmm.
and probably spanning an age range all the way up to probably late 50s,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. What it represents for me, because I am a graduate, is getting comfortable outside of family and schooling and maybe the workplace, and getting into a political environment or a leadership environment. That's what, for me, really, I guess, morphed for me or changed, is my perspective, my view of
I think
myself.
that's important about the leadership piece, because when Martin Luther King died and after Malcolm X, a lot of people said the black community didn't have any leaders, and that infuriated me.
Right.
And people hear me say it all the time.
I've heard you say it
because
before.
They say we have lots of leaders, we just need to raise them up,
Absolutely.
provide access and opportunities, and give them help enhance the skills that they really have innately got on different levels in order
Correct.
to be part of community.
Correct.
And that's one of the things about Kwanzaa. Each one of the principles speaks to some of that. And Africa's the motherland. Not everybody wants to acknowledge that, but basically it sort of is. And when you think about the fact that New Hampshire now has become more diverse, we're going to be raising up so many more young leaders. So I
Right.
didn't want to interrupt you, but I just need to address that.
Yeah, so for me, I grew up in Nashua. So my parents moved there in 1972. Went through private school, Bishop Girton, and then went away to the Army for 2 years, and then came back and completed my university degree at the University of Lowell. But even with that experience, I never saw myself as somebody that would step up to represent somebody more than myself. And when I started my own business back in 2005, I needed to network. I realized it wasn't good enough to only interact with people in my current group. And so I ventured out and discovered Emerging Leaders in Communities of Color.
Can I interrupt you? You said your own business. Can you tell us a little bit about that? You're an entrepreneur.
I'm an entrepreneur. So I started a business called Town Planner Community Calendar back in 2005. It's a publication that gets mailed out annually to families and businesses. It contains community information like community photos, events in the community that go on, local phone numbers, and it's been a great experience being on my own and running my own company.
Is there a number if someone wanted to find out more information that you could repeat and repeat slowly twice?
Sure. My phone number is 603-791-4748. So 603-791-4748. The website is simple, www.townplanner.com. If you want to learn more about what Town Planner is, you can go to the website. And if you'd like to give me a call, you're welcome to do that as well.
Thank you. Now, I'll let you get back to. You'll find I interrupt as I find little points I want to bring out to
Correct.
people.
So where was I? So so I ventured out and I realized I needed to network, and to me that meant contacting past people I hadn't been in touch with in a long time. Nobody really knew, just past people. So I ventured over to Revere College to Sharon Roulette, who's a family friend, a friend of the family, and walked into her office and reintroduced myself, and then told her about my new company and needing to make contacts just to share what it is I was doing.
Can I ask you, what does Sharon do at Riviera College?
She's responsible for the Multicultural Affairs Office on campus in Nashua. Since I've known her, that's what she's been up to and doing.
So that was a great network to connect with.
Yeah, I walked in, and what happened from that is she told me about emerging leaders in communities of color. She made a phone call to one of the then leaders in the program, Claudia Nixon, and they started chatting and then presented to me an opportunity to get involved in a 9-month program that met one Friday a month, September, October through June. And what I saw in it for myself was how to network, and then also seeing myself more than just somebody that can represent my own needs, but as a leader, somebody that might be able to represent other people's needs, not just my family, but other people in the community. And I said yes to that program, and that was in 2005. And we graduated my class in 2006. And I, since then, a year later, came onto the board of the organization and have been involved since then. And can I,
Please.
very naturally, the lady sitting next to me is my wife. And so she had interest in the program over the course of a number of years, and I didn't know if it was permissible for a spouse to participate. So I inquired, and she's in the current class. So Yolanda Spearman.
Yolanda, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you wanted to be involved with the program.
Well, I'm Yolanda Spearman, his wife, and I come from Florida, where there's a diverse community down in Florida. Coming up here, the diversity isn't so much up here, and I went to school, a graduate school at University of Lowell, now UMass Lowell, and I went into teaching. I taught at St. Paul's School in Concord, New Hampshire. They have a wonderful, diverse program there. So after teaching there for about 16 to 20 years, I haven't counted them up. I've been there for so long. After I came off campus, I still taught. I went into, I got married. I met my husband at a wonderful church, New England Pentecostal Ministry, which was a diverse
Population.
group. Yes, very diverse. So it was wonderful being in that. I met my husband. We got married, had children, and then I went into another teaching position that wasn't so diverse. And that's when my husband began ELCC, the program. And he was all involved with all these wonderful leaders in the community, African American community, and it drew me to them.
I have a question. You said you came from Florida, and one of the things that New Hampshire struggles with now and is growing from, I get excited because I've traveled all over the country, is the fact that we run across so many different cultures. For you, when you first came north to the New England area,
Yes.
how was that for you?
Very different.
Very different.
Very different. I found not so many people of color around me. until I joined the New England Pentecostal Ministry. Then there were many, and that's where I based a lot of my time because the community was there. But once I left that community, there wasn't so many out in the workforce. And so looking...
I think we find often our faith-based communities are more diverse in many ways, depending on what you believe in, and when you believe that we're all God's children, and it doesn't matter. You know,
Yes.
it's a whole nother culture.
Right.
It really is.
Right.
Totally.
Right. And being a leader myself, I'm a teacher, and so I lead children, and I incorporate them into being open to diversity. And I was there to stand for them, but I didn't feel that I had that backing that I needed. I felt alone. And so when I saw the group that my husband entered in, ELCC, it just drew me. I was so amazed to see so many, going from zero to...
It always seems like
Right.
it's zero when people come in.
Right.
It's changed a whole lot in the last 10 years and 20 years, and I've lived here as home for 45 years.
Right, going
So
from zero
it's
to...
interesting to see the changes. And for young people, their reality is so different from someone who's been here 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just really enjoyed it, and listening to the different topics that were coming up in the group. When I visited with him, I accompanied him with a couple of the meetings.
Oh yeah, sure. There was a
What are some of
graduation
the
or two.
topics? Why don't we talk a little bit about what the program offers?
Okay, so when I saw the program, was introduced to it, networking stood out for me. That was the big thing. But there are many topics we covered during the 9 months. So things like conflict resolution, strategic planning, networking is one, public speaking skills. You can help out too, Sandy. You're on the board.
Oh no, I'm on the board, but I want you
Okay.
to do a job. And
I
I'm
didn't bring a
also
list.
making the connection because Yolanda's a teacher. She said, as a leader, and you realize you need conflict resolution, and you
Absolutely.
need all
Right.
these same skills
Right.
that we're
Right.
talking about. That we're trying to enhance and develop in
Right.
these adults.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Another one is facilitating meetings. During the course of the program, there are 14 people, 15 people in the room, plus faculty and visitors. How do you keep that meeting going, flowing, according to the plan that's on paper, like the intention for the meeting, as well as incorporating people's views and their feedback into the course of that 8-hour period. So you can get to observe an expert doing that throughout the program and pick up that skill. Yeah.
You learn how to do it also.
Correct.
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 At some point in the program, you get to practice leadership skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know if I covered all the topics there. Some more might come to mind, but those are the major ones.
Okay. Back to you, Yolanda, you were talking about as a teacher yourself, and then seeing this kind of things, program issues that he was exposing you to that we did within the program. So it was kind of, let me check this out, right?
Yes, and I wanted to become a participant, and he kept saying, well, he didn't quite know. And I said, I think I qualify. So,
There are so many people
Right.
each year in the summer time frame that are interested in being in the program. And we have a budget, and so we have really room for 12 to fill 12 seats.
Right.
And so that's why I thought,
Yeah.
well, there's so much demand, just the whole family.
But the nominating
relationship.
process is something I think people should be aware of too.
Sure.
Someone
Correct.
can nominate someone else.
Yeah, you can
or
nominate. You
permanent
can
nominate
self-nominate.
yourself.
You
Exactly.
can have somebody in the community like myself. If I know you, I could nominate you to the program as well. With that said, it's still a personal decision to make a commitment of 9 months and to take a Friday each month
Right.
off from work to get your employer's approval, and then also deal with just practical life, the loss of income perhaps, childcare issues that might pop up. So there has to be a commitment on the part of each participant because we have an obligation to graduate everybody. So I wanted to say that. Can I also say one other thing?
Oh, please.
I don't want people to get the wrong impression that emerging leaders in communities of color is limited to African American people. It's actually very diverse. There are Native Indians, Indians, Caucasian, African American, African, Caribbean. There's Spanish. There's a lot of people that have participated in the program, and that's what makes it so rich.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and gives a lot of different viewpoints around leadership. But while you're in the program, the topic is leadership, but there's a lot of just personal relationships that get developed,
Right.
and a lot of cultural, experience that also gets spoken
Exposure.
of, and there's exposure.
Cultural exposure.
Yeah. So that's another wonderful benefit of this program that I really enjoy, and that's why I've been committed since, I graduated.
I'll just read a little bit.
Okay, great.
We have a flyer. And we were designing this over a period of time, and we struggled with a vision and a commitment, and then came up with a mission statement. And the mission statement is to aid and support our emerging minority leaders by increasing skills, resources, and opportunities, and creating a support mechanism to encourage more successful leadership. And I think that's what you said, that leadership piece, and then the networking, and then realizing you've got supports of people who've gone through similar kinds of things, who are going through it, and you learn from them, and you get those exposures. And of course, it's nice to have that kind of backup system. I think often in the past, especially for minority persons who are struggling to get into positions of leadership, they don't feel like they have the support, and so that loses and dims their passion a little bit. So a program like this, and you mentioned earlier, we started with age 18. Is there a reason for that? We've had discussions, you've been part of the board.
One of the reasons that I know has come up is that at the graduation, at the opening orientation, at the retreat, there is a social gathering, and alcohol can be served or is served.
Or a place it may be held at a place where
at a
there is
restaurant
alcohol.
or a bar
right.
where there is alcohol. So we've always had that concern of just being responsible for all the participants. So that's where the 18-year-old thing comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned a retreat. What's that all about?
The retreat is a fantastic opportunity. Yeah. The real meat of the program happens from October through May. Graduation is in June. In September, there's that opening time where we come together and we explain what the program is, and people make that final commitment to do the program. And then the following month, following month, we have a retreat. And usually it's held up north.
The orientation happens in September.
In September?
In
Orientation
September
is September.
orientation, right.
Retreat
Is in October.
Okay, got it. So the group individually travels up to Waterville Estates. That's where we've hosted it for a number of years. And it's a time to really get away from the 9 to 5 and really bond with the other participants and open up yourself to having a conversation. What is leadership? And Yolanda started talking about it, and the conversation's kind of recent because it's only December. And your program,
what was it like for you?
Started in October.
I felt exposed to others who felt inside of them the same issues. What you don't see in the communities, you have to become. If you don't see a leader, it's time one. It called me to action. So now my mind, more than looking for a leader, has been, I am the leader because I'm present and I'm willing to take on the responsibility and the role of being the leader. So that's what ELCC has done for me. It made me realize that I was swimming in a pond that was too small, and it was time for me to go out to open sea. So that's the major thing that I've only been to one meeting, and that's the major thing that I took from that I need to think another way.
And that was
One
the
of the
retreat.
pieces that we do at the retreat is we ask each participant about their vision.
Yes.
And then you get a chance to share it, and as you said, you get a chance to hear from other people, and it kind of puts you on notice.
Yeah, day to day, 9 to 5, balancing family, work, and whatever else. You don't always have that opportunity to step back. And at the retreat, you get that. It's a time away. It's somewhat of a vacation place. And you get together, plain clothes, and you just have time to really reflect on who you think you are and what you maybe have put off as something for you, just what didn't seem possible, given time, constraints, or whatever it might have been. And then you discover, like Yolanda's sharing, like I discovered, I'm the one. And what am I waiting on? And you're right. In New Hampshire, I think our diversity is, I don't know if it's 3% or less or 1%. I don't remember the exact statistic. But what that looks like day to day, like out on the road, is you look around and you're it, is for a person of color. I know I faced that in school, elementary, middle, high, in the workforce, like Yolanda shared. And you see other people, even on TV, right? Nowadays it's a little bit different, but Bill Cosby comes to mind, right? A doctor, his wife's a lawyer. You think they're happy. And they have kids that, are doing things, have aspirations of going to college. I missed that I was a leader because I saw it in other people, and they were all looked a certain way. And when you come collectively to a church faith-based, or to a program like ELCC, you look around and you say, hey, I can do this. I have other people that are intelligent, gifted, aspiring, have similar backgrounds or really different backgrounds, but we're all interested in the same thing, making a difference here in the planet, in the world, right, in our own relationships, in our own families. And we've been waiting. Right. Waiting for what?
And you speak because you come from a particular generation. Now you're a parent with children, and you're a teacher and an educator, so you've been seeing it. So you know that the reality for your children is so different than your realities were.
Yes, even to my, Yes. That whole thing, I'll raise my children differently than my parents. I said it, our kids are in the next room, 10 and 12 years old, and that's their current. When we grow up, we're going to, let our children stay up, and so forth. Yeah, there's a different reality that they're in than we were in.
But those aren't reality-based issues that they're talking about either. And when they have parents around and they have exposures to adults who have some meaningful conversations about issues that really going to have an impact on their life and their sense of self and their success and their contribution to society, it's very different. Right. And as an individual, as we grow, we need to have that sense that we can share that. We can give that back to somebody. But unless you see yourself as a leader, as an individual, you don't feel like you can do that.
That's interesting, Sandy. You bring that up because last night, thinking about being here today, and this morning, I had to come to what was it about me? What was my viewpoint that I didn't see myself as somebody that could stand up and say something? And I think it's the way I was brought up. Mm-hmm. And I talked about this with somebody else on the board, actually one of the founders, Bill Walker, at a board meeting we had earlier this month. And it was the idea that in my house, kids were not seen, right? Unless you're spoken to, you don't speak.
Exactly. I was raised similarly.
Yeah, and so I think that shapes, then when it's my time, I'm waiting on somebody else to speak and lead. It's not me. Mm-hmm. Because 0 through 18, only speak when you're spoken to, and you're not on the center stage. Mm-hmm. I think that's the part that you get out of this program.
I think that one of the things with the generations, it was a huge piece of respect. But we know now we can raise our children to share their interests in what's on their mind in a respectful manner.
Absolutely.
And that makes the difference. Then you can have the conversation.
Correct. And they can have the conversation that they can have at 12 years old instead of waiting until they're 25
Trying
or
to find the words.
or 45.
Is it okay? Right.
Is it okay?
Yes, exactly.
And as long as there's somebody out there that's leading, I don't have to do anything. I can just sit back and wait for that person to say, go this way, go that way. But at 12, if I can instill in my son, Aaron, and my daughter, Ariana or Chloe, your voice is important. It's not opposing me. I'm not challenged by it. I get you're not going to be a kid forever. You're going to be an adult a lot longer than you're going to be a kid. Right. It's time for you to
out of the Bible, it says out of the mouths of babes. Right. It's just how they're taught to do it.
Right.
And they have to have examples on how to do it appropriately.
Without an adult feeling threatened. Exactly. And I can see how that perpetuates, where you get into a position of power, being a parent, and it's time to exercise that. Because maybe that's the only leadership role that I think I can have.
Well, even as a person of a minority population, it fits into whether or not you speak up to a boss.
Right.
when he's right or wrong, because he signs your paycheck.
Correct.
And because I'm not on the same level, well, you're an equal human being.
Right.
And if you know your stuff,
Right.
you're just as right as he is. He might need to have that conversation with you.
And there's no threat.
Exactly.
It's simply a conversation and having leadership skills that I can bring that. I'm not threatening your position.
Right.
I'm simply having a conversation about the conditions in the workplace or about my aspirations to advance myself or whatever it might be. It's a topic. It's not a power issue. It's simply a voice.
Right.
I have a voice.
And the reality is, in the workplace, because you are contributing and doing a job, part of your obligation
Yeah.
is. And if
Yeah.
you're doing a good job, they really rely on you to do that.
Correct. And I've experienced this in the workplace where you said it. They're expecting you to, but because maybe in their environment where they grew up, people just took on leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so they might be wondering, what's Perry's issue? He's not stepping
Right.
up. He's not
Exactly.
demanding to be a manager, or he's not voicing his concern. And they're kind of like baffled, like what's going on, because they don't get it. Because their experience growing up was quite different.
Different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's that dynamic that goes on. That's really, I don't know about for you, Yolanda, but I'm sure it's similar because we share the same experiences.
with different
It's very
ways.
baffling. You get to a certain
But
age, a certain place in
Yolanda
life, and
worked
feel as though you don't have any
with
power.
young people and children. So I'm sure you can see, because they're coming out of households and they're coming out of environments where they don't have that. As you said,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you get put on notice. Well, wait a minute. I'm going to help these young people have a sense of themselves and their own power. To
Correct.
be.
And to see that we're more alike than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a couple things different,
Exactly.
but the common ground is greater. And exposing them, being an African American teacher in an environment that had none,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times I was the first one that they saw, and they looked at me, they didn't know.
Exactly.
And so they referred to their parents. And then as I was there longer, they got to know me and realize, hey, she's not different.
Exactly. You're not different, but you were qualified because you were the
Right.
educated. You had the
Right.
academic
And
background, and you did have that leadership position. And they
Correct.
began to get that balance.
Correct. And they grew to know me, respect me, and want what I have to offer. So I feel that I wish I was more of a leader in the adult aspect, teachers among teachers, because I was really comfortable with the teacher, with the student, because they look at you differently. And I feel that this program, Emerging Leaders, will help me be more comfortable in that leadership role among my
Peers,
colleagues.
right, and your colleagues. Absolutely.
So that I can feel comfortable in going forth, and even if what I'm saying is different, it's still very much needed to be said.
Absolutely.
Because
and we're about those differences. God made every single one of us very unique.
right.
And we need to then have that respect for those differences in a way that doesn't make it a power issue.
Right, and I think also it was the issue that no one ever brought it up. If I'm the first African American in the system, how would they know?
Exactly.
So they had to become aware of issues, and I was less willing to put out something different. And that's where that leadership, it being amongst other leaders and people in the same position as I am, that I could network and talk. Well, I, bounce it off the wall with the other person of color, how I would handle issues. And in this group, I find that my other colleagues in the group and peers, they're going through the exact same issues and instances at work as I am. And then we can talk about it and then maybe bridge it in different
Become more
ways.
unified.
Yes.
And that's where I want to go back a little bit to about Kwanzaa. on the 26th, it's Umoja, and it means to maintain unity in the family and the community. And those are some of the things that you learn to do as a leader, especially in the communities of color. Kuchiyakamo is determination to be responsible and speak for oneself. Then, like I said, today is collective work and responsibilities to build and maintain community, which is what we're talking about, communities of color, then building that. Ujama is economic cooperation to help and profit one another, which is another thing we need to do. Your business is going to do that. You know, it opens up the door. You set an example. And the kind of work you're doing, you're reaching out to all kinds of other businesses and giving them an opportunity. And we have NIA, which is purpose, to build and develop community for the benefit of the people. And that's what we're trying to do because we're all in this together. And then there's Ugumba, creativity, to do everything possible to leave the community more beautiful and beneficial for the future. And then you have your last one on January 1st, the new year, Imani, faith. And that's to believe in parents and leaders. And that's what Kwanzaa is all about. And so when I look at what we're doing through emerging leaders in communities of color, we're giving people that network and that support and enhancing those skills that we have. We just need to develop them, and everybody's going to go in different directions.
Right.
Yes.
And then we support that, and then we unify because we have those networks.
Right.
And as you said, we have common goals.
Right.
We're different, but we're not that different. Our basic needs and wants are similar,
About the same.
Yeah.
you know. So what are your hopes for the program? You've still got months ahead of you.
One of my hopes is I'm exposed to people such as yourself that have made a difference in this state, in this community, and starting with small steps just to observe you and to learn from you how you made the small steps, and now it looks like huge monumental steps, but I'm sure you felt that they were huge and monumental as well, but you've done so much. And I thank you for being that leader and mentor, but you also was successful at what you did, the different programs you started and encouraged, and then put other people in charge of them and moved on to the next program, and then got leaders to run that and then moved on to a next program. There's always the something else, that next thing that you're looking.
Well, you know, it's one thing about speaking for yourself, but it's not about yourself, it's about community.
Right.
I'm a great-grandparent, so I got a few generations behind me, and you think about that. And when I made the choice to stay here, because I'm originally from Boston, and my heritage is African, Native American, and many other mixes, Portuguese and others, because of the Native American side. And I moved and lived in California. I have one child was born in California, one was born in Maine, and people would say, why would you stay in New Hampshire? Well, I'm a diehard New Englander. I think we have a little bit of everything here. And many people have migrated from here or left and gone back to the South. And my grandmother came from Georgia on my father's side, though my mother came from 1500s here on Cape Cod Islands. So I had that beautiful heritage. My grandmothers, who I knew best as a young person, gave me my sense of self and as a woman. And so as I traveled around in the 60s, sometimes by myself on a bus in the South, I had that sense of myself and realized it wasn't about me, that I was an image. And I think when you're raised in a family, you probably know it, Perry, you represented the family.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was taught first I was a child of God. So I'm representing the whole family, you know, different shape, different colors, whatever. And I learned a few other languages and didn't make a big deal of it, but it was helpful when I could, because this is America and we speak English here. American English, I call it, because it's not true English. And so I found over time, when people say, well, why would you stay in New Hampshire? There isn't much of a black community. I said, well, it's not about being black, you know. But I said, I need to be here. This is where I need to be.
Right.
And Bill teases me all the time is about showing up. And I've had the advantage of showing up and being visible, which helped people after a while. And because of having a sense of myself, people could feel comfortable in asking or saying things to me and not knowing whether or not. Often you say, well, I don't want to offend, but I don't know. And it was a lot of it, their lack of knowing,
Right.
and a lack of the fact that they hadn't had exposure to other people of
Right.
color.
Yes.
And so that was very easy for me, really. It wasn't as hard. People would often say, did you feel like a token? I said, I'll never feel like I'm a token because I'm one of God's children. I'm as equal as the next one, you know?
Correct.
I don't look at it on those levels. And I think we have a choice about how we want to see the negative or the positive,
Correct.
the opportunity or the barrier.
Right.
Right. Right.
And so carrying that and having the support of family and coming from those environments where that was encouraged. Because I was raised with children seen and not heard, but you had to learn along the way. So what you didn't know, you had to check out, and then you might get questioned on it, and you better be up to snuff. So education was a big thing. Knowing something because you knew it, not because somebody told you. So that means you had to learn how to work a dictionary and figure out spelling and be able to spell it and hold a conversation. And so all those pieces helped you be able to have a conversation with people on many different levels. Going to university or college is great, and I found at different colleges and colleges around the country, depending on who you interact in, basically you get down to the basics, and everybody's looking to learn a little bit more, become a little bit more acceptable at certain levels, you know,
Yes.
because we're a classist society, you know, and we're a visual society, so people make judgments on how you look. And because I've had a vision problem for many years, I often say we should be blind for a week, and then we'd have to listen to people's hearts and make judgments from the connections that we make. So for me, it wasn't as hard as it may have been, but I've had other people that I've certainly have been associated with and that will work shoulder to shoulder who had different struggles. And it comes often from what you were saying, Perry, from how you're raised, what your exposures have been,
And assumptions.
what's the
You make
assumptions that
about
you
the
make.
stories I
Right,
make.
exactly.
I live right into
exactly.
them and prove them out every
Yeah,
day.
exactly.
Whether they're real or not. It's
And-
like,
exactly.
I have to make a
True,
conclusion
true.
to get through it.
Yeah, and we have a generation of young people who have so many exposures that we're constantly balancing all the time, you know, what kind of information they're filtering what they get.
Right.
But you have to be able to communicate with them
Right.
in order to do that.
Right.
And if you're not raised that you can have that conversation or ask what that word means that you heard you didn't know, even
Right.
though it might not have been an appropriate word or something
Right.
similar, then that puts a barrier up
Yeah.
for you.
Absolutely.
And so then through the leadership program, realized, well, gee, let's eliminate some of those barriers.
Exactly.
So for you, you were talking about speaking. What does the first part of the year begin to bring to the program that a lot of people celebrate?
Celebrate?
Yes, the
You
fact
mean
that they
the
have
The participants celebrate?
the
Because they don't start off
participants,
celebrating.
They celebrate being able to do what?
Speak in public.
Speak.
so,
Absolutely.
We partner with Toastmasters International, and they have chapters across the country, and usually 2 or 3 in every city or town. So the Concord Toastmasters group, one of them, we partner with, and they provide leadership, instruction in public speaking. So they bring that program and the training that you get by participating in that program right to the Fridays. I think it's every Friday. We incorporate some element of Toastmasters. People start off, right, quiet, right, just listening to other people, usually the faculty or the executive director leading the program. And then this Toastmasters program brings people out. They get a chance to develop a speech, and then they discover there's a process. You don't just stand up and you're eloquent. No, there's a process, preparation, having an intention, and then really meeting that by doing some of that homework, and then you deliver what you've prepared, and then that's when you get into what's real about how do I look to people and all that other garbage. It's real, but it's not real. It gets in the way. Like you said earlier, it wasn't about you. I think when people get that, then it's a lot easier to present something because it's not about me. I'm presenting something I really care about, something I want to not change, but something I want to, change might be, or bring into the world or my community. And it becomes a lot easier with the tools of Toastmasters and the time to present something maybe each Friday and to have the support of your classmates and the program, and to get that you're okay. As a matter of fact, your voice is so unique that it's a shame you haven't brought it before. Wow. And you get that sort of, that's awesome, which you may never see yourself, but then you begin to at least acknowledge, I do have some power. I do have a way of saying things. My experiences have made me unique. And when I speak, something gets across that somebody out there is waiting to hear expressed, because they've been unable to express it.
Yeah.
Or to really get clear on what they're experiencing is valid.
I think one of the exciting pieces of that is on one of the program days, you're hit with a question and you need to respond.
Yeah, right.
And you never know where it's going to come from or what you might have to speak on.
Is that table?
Table topics is one thing.
Something.
That
Yeah, there's a
table
phrase
topics
for it
is
in
gives you a little,
Toastmasters.
but there's a variety of different terms that you can use for it. But that's one of the things when people are caught on the spot and all of a sudden the focus is on them and they have to speak about something either they like, they don't like, something they've experienced or
Sure,
whatever.
sure.
And you find once you're talking about something you have a passion about or you know,
right.
it's easier.
Correct.
And then of course you learn the elevator speech,
Correct.
which is, for you, what would you say the elevator speech would be?
What do you mean?
If you were in the elevator with me for
To tell you what I do?
2 minutes, well, you might decide about an issue or mostly about yourself or some program you run.
Probably about my business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, you want me to?
What would be your elevator speech?
I would say something like, Sandy, what I do is I actually provide a community service. So I send out a community publication called Town Planner Calendar. In that calendar, there are daily events, there's local photography, local phone numbers, and it's something full size, wall hanging, and it's free. And I mail it out every year. And so the tagline behind that, what really it represents, is on display every day. It's something that if you're a business sponsoring my publication, you're going to get on display every day sort of exposure. People are actually going to look at it. When they come to look at the dates, they're going to see your ad. And that's something that you just can't get anywhere else.
Sounds good to
Something
me.
like that.
Yolanda, you'll have your chances. But if you were put on the spot now, what would you say you're about?
I'm about exposing education with my students. In one of my classes, I teach beginning piano. And when they first come in, they tell me, oh, I absolutely cannot play at all. And the first thing that I tell my class is, every one of you will be playing at the end of this class, because there are steps to take. Some of you take piano, some of you've never seen a piano, some of you have keyboards, guitars, but every one of you, when you leave this class, will play. And then I expose them to that I'm not grading them against another student. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times they're fearful of, well, she's been taking piano for 5 years and there's no way I can get, but you're not graded against that person. You're graded against yourself. And so it's about your potential, not someone else's potential. And they become comfortable with the fact that, okay, I can do this. And I walk them through steps where I show them I'm going to start at the very beginning, not at G, and you don't get A, B, C, D, E, F. And once they understand that they can do it and that I will expose them to everything that they need in order to play, in about 3 weeks, I have everybody playing, no matter what level they're at, and they so enjoy it. And I'm just thrilled that they have the opportunity to learn that they are teachable and they can learn something that they've never done before, an instrument.
And see, just that is what you're going to be contributing as a participant in this program. You'll be learning other kinds of things, but just
Yes.
bringing that piece and that focus from yourself is going to be important for the other participants in the program to hear. And that's the neat thing, when you have an opportunity like Harry said, to be with other people and you begin to find like, wow, we all got rich stuff to share to this
Yeah.
pot.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about why you think this is a good program.
There are so many people out there that are waiting on something else to happen. I think that's the key. This program takes somebody off of the couch, or out of the, puts them into the game, and gives them, I would say, it shifts their perspective on what they think is possible. And it doesn't take a lifetime to do that. It can happen at a 2-day retreat. It can happen at the orientation. We meet for, 2 hours. Just getting that, if you're intentional about something, you have the ability to make that something happen. So for me, there are a lot of people out there that are waiting. And that's one less contribution to the way the world could be. It really is. So, and I meet people, and I'll spend time with them talking, whether they're business owners, people I meet at social events, and we have great conversations because I'm really interested in what they're going to contribute, what they're about, what makes them get up in the morning. Yeah.
I understand you were part of Leadership New Hampshire.
I was.
Tell me a little bit about that.
A very similar format. I actually participated in Leadership New Hampshire after Emerging Leaders in Communities of Color. And I don't believe I could have participated the way I did, or even had the opportunity probably, without having come through this great program. In that program, you take existing leaders, people that already are
CEOs.
CEOs, but also, I remember one, because Yolanda's a teacher, and I'm trying to remember his name, but he's a superintendent of schools today, right? For the state of New Hampshire. So there's a leader already. So it's a different program than that. We're taking people that are really emerging leaders.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the title.
That's the title. Not existing leaders. So I could participate in that because I had become a leader. And it was nice being in that setting.
You recognized you had a
right
chance to enhance your
Correct.
leadership abilities.
Well, and I'm a business owner, so I guess inherently, right? And I'm a dad and so forth. But that was enough, sufficient. I looked at my world and said, I really am a leader. So when I go to a business event, I'm representing myself and more than myself, you know? And that shifted for me. So your question of what did Leadership New Hampshire do for me? No, you didn't really ask what it did for me.
No, but I just wanted to share that you'd had that experience and that it was the next another step.
At the last graduation, I had a chance to speak to the graduating class, right, for emerging leaders. And I had to put really kind of my past into some perspective and offer something to the group. And you were there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you were there as my wife. For me, it was when I came to the orientation in 2005, I sat in a room and there were a lot of people there that started that program, probably 14 people. And I thought, they should all be here, but not me. Because our mind does that, right?
Right.
They look better than I look. They seem smarter than I am. They have better backgrounds, blah, on and on and on. And by the end of that orientation, through the format of the program and Bill Walker leading that program, I got that it was in that room and it wasn't by accident.
Right. I don't think there are too many real accidents that happen. There's a purpose behind them. God has a plan for all of us. It's not
Correct.
usually the plan we thought,
Correct.
but we have none of roads. So
Correct.
we
So
continue on.
that program, right, it brought leadership to 14, 12 people, whatever, were in the room that really didn't think they belonged there. They had been invited. They had been nominated. They had actually responded to that and been interviewed. But yet, still carrying, I don't really belong here. They made a mistake, but I'm going to go and see what it's about. That orientation shifted my view. Boom. And then the retreat did too in each subsequent program. Out of that, I went back into my community and joined a Chamber of Commerce. Now in my business, part of it is going door to door with business owners. I don't literally go door to door, but I pick businesses I'm targeting and I make an introduction. It shifted my view of who I was. So I was able to go do that. I've been in business now 6 years, going on 7. I look in my mirror every day and I go, that's pretty amazing. Because I wouldn't have done this probably had I not, or been as successful as I have been, had I not enrolled myself in a leadership program like Emerging Leaders, and then looked at Leadership New Hampshire, and then joined Chambers of Commerce, and been involved in other things in life, nonprofits. Joined a Rotary, joined a Kiwanis Club, and just been an explorer, like looking at leadership not just in one culture or one niche of need in the community that a nonprofit springs up to meet, but kind of looking at all of it. And I've always been a lifelong learner, but this said I can go out anywhere. There's always a need. Every group needs a person or a body or some thinking or some money or whatever. There's always a need. Mm-hmm. So I was able to go out and explore the community and make a contribution.
You made a statement that I'd like to jump on for a minute, because
Sure.
we have a society that so often responds to their wants and not really takes the time to stop and think about what they really need. Mm-hmm. And you're addressing that is very, very significant, because you said you recognize this was something you needed, and as you said, as a lifelong learner, you needed to know more. You needed to have those exposures, those opportunities.
Okay, great. Opportunities, right, and needing to know. One of the things that I love about our program is we host these not in a set place, like in a building, our building, in our room. And no, it's out in the community. So whether it's at the Manchester airport, or it's in the executive boardroom of Anheuser-Busch, or AARP, or at the
Department
Delta
of
Dental
Education.
Center. Yeah, up at New Hampshire at the State House. These places we host are like important, because the leader from that program comes in and addresses the participants, introduces themselves, describes the facility and what they accomplish here. And what I love about it, I was thinking about this today, like you with your students, you can be touched. Oftentimes, my experience, like before this, was certain people are untouchable. They have power and all that, but you can't go talk to them. And if you do, it's a one-way conversation. We've been fortunate, right? The people that come to our program as faculty or open up and host an event, our program session day, they're human. And they come into the room, and you can actually build a relationship and network with that individual. Even though he or she is at the highest level in that company, we just have great partners. That's all I'm trying to say.
We have great partners,
great partners.
And what we've done is begun to establish within the community, because now, as you said, people can self-nominate, but then they have to make a commitment in order to be in the program. And then if they have a job, they have to get the commitment and support from their employer.
Right.
And the employers are getting a sense of, wow, if this person develops better leadership skills, they're going to be a better employee representative of our company.
Absolutely.
Before I forget, because our time is getting short, I just wanted to present you this year that you were considered 2011's Alumnus of the Year Award.
I was honored.
From Emerging Leaders in Communities of Color. I just wanted you to have that. So, you represented us well. I couldn't have had a better couple come on and talk about not only the early experience, your current experience new, and what it's brought to you, and what you're bringing to it, and how you represent it. And any other things you'd like to share? We've got a couple minutes left.
Sure. I just got to think about what that might be. I'll just kind of give my time for just a minute to, if you want to do anything you'd like to share. Because there always
I'm
is.
just so honored to be a part of this program. I know it just began, but it has stirred within me an excitement of preparing a vision and then working toward it step by step. And this group is giving us how to step. And literally, a lot of times you want to do things and you just don't know how to accomplish it.
Right.
And it is showing me to take it. It's action that does it. You can want to step all you want, but to literally take the step. And that's with homework, doing the homework of putting it all down on paper and having a plan. And I'm just honored that I'm a part of this program, and I've enjoyed it so far, and I know that I will continue to enjoy it, and it will bring out the leader in me, a better leader.
It can only strengthen the program, what your contributions will be, and the networking that happens through it.
Yes.
And the skills that have been developed that Harry didn't know he had.
Correct.
Yes.
You know, what Yolanda shared is exactly what I would say, looking out into the camera and knowing there are people at home or wherever you are listening to this. It's exactly that. You can actually accomplish the things in life that you really care about that maybe nobody else you think cares about or supports you. This is a fantastic program to explore those things and find that support and actually bring that to life.
Yes.
So I don't know for sure the website address, because I know we've played around with it and got that domain registered.
The website, I believe, is
Yes.
www.emerginglcc.org.
.org. And if it's not that,
And
my
it will
mind,
come
I'm thinking
up on the web.
I'm thinking
Absolutely.
Emerging Leaders cc.org.
Yeah.
But we also have a Facebook page too. So if you go to
Yes.
Emerging Leaders and Communities of Color on Facebook, you can go there and learn more about the program as well.
And I know that Facebook now, of course, has become such a social medium.
Absolutely.
All kinds of things are happening on social,
Sure.
with the social connecting that goes on and the talking about the things that are happening. So,
Yeah.
no, well, that's been great. And one last word, if anybody had one. So they said I was sharing Kwanzaa with folks, and last day of Kwanzaa will be January 1st, which will be
That's right.
2012.
Yes.
It's a few days away, and I'm looking forward to it being a healthy, happy, more peaceful world.
Yes.
And I certainly thank you all for coming on. And I hope the kids get a chance to watch in the other room so they can see mom and dad doing their thing, you know.
Right.
And this is the inside story, and this is what we do. We sit here and we just talk about issues. We try to get on a level where people who maybe have questions or issues, sometimes nobody calls in because they're so immersed in what's being said. Or I'll get a call later on, you know. But I try to make sure they have numbers or information if they want to be in touch. Emerging Leaders and Communities of Colors has a P.O. Box 614, Manchester, New Hampshire, 03105. So if somebody wants to write and ask a question or get some more written information, we have flyers and we have applications. People can apply to be a part of a class, not this one that's active, but for a future. And as you said, we have interviews with people to find out why they're interested, what kind of commitment they have, if this is something they'd be able to work out. And certainly, as we talked about the fact that we have more organizations now interested in sponsoring us, AARP has made a commitment to help support us. And you mentioned some of the other places that have supported us by hosting us. And all those things are going to help it grow. And in the future, we would like to have a program for younger people with other considerations, because there is such a tremendous need. We have a lot of young people out there floundering around needing to know that they have abilities. And if we can catch them at an earlier age, they won't be waiting until they're 45 to say,
Correct.
well,
Right.
maybe I could be a leader, you know?
Yeah, correct.
So
Yeah.
I think just having you here talking about it so that people can think about and process what you were saying and suck it in and say, gee, that could be me, makes a big difference. Because I sit here all day and talk about these things, and it's just me again.
Right.
So thanks again for being on the Inside Story.
Thank you, Sandra,
Thank
for
you.
having me here, having my wife here.